I want a currency that is easily divisible. Mr. Schiff, please take 2 minutes why I should want gold as my money if I want currency that is divisible, money that is divisible.
Well, gold is extremely divisible because you can melt it down and you can recast it in bars or coins of various sizes, and you can weigh it and you can know exactly what you have. And thanks to the internet, you can have gold stored, and the custodian can issue ownership of that gold digitally, so that gold can actually be broken down digitally into grams or fractions of a gram, which is part of what's happening now with the digital economy. In the past, when gold worked very well as money, I thought it was interesting that Robert said that gold hasn't worked as money. Well, I mean, it's worked fantastic for thousands of years. That's why it became money. It didn't become money because it didn't work. It became money because it worked really well. But in the past, before we had the technology we had today, even though you could divide gold into very small quantities, people didn't do that because you could lose it. It just wasn't, it didn't make sense to use gold to buy let's say a cup of coffee, because the amount of gold that you would need to exchange was too small. And so they used other metals that also have monetary properties. So we used silver as money. We used copper as money. We used, nickel as money. But today, given the technology that we have, it's very possible to break gold down into tiny units and then transact electronically. So it's kind of like, it's better than the goldsmith did with paper money, where he held the gold and he gave you a note that would circulate. You could leave your gold on deposit with a custodian and you can exchange ownership electronically. You don't even need blockchain to do that. I mean, you could tokenize the gold and put it on a blockchain if you wanted to, but you don't even need a blockchain because, the custodian could do it without that at an even lower cost. So it makes it very inexpensive. If I wanted to buy a cup of coffee and pay for it with gold, if the merchant wanted my gold, I could do that transaction very quickly and very inexpensively, much faster and much cheaper than if I was going to pay in Bitcoin and the merchant wanted to accept Bitcoin.
Mr. Breedlove, I want a money that is easily divisible. Why should I support Bitcoin?
Okay, I'll keep it brief again. Each Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million subunits, often called Satoshis or sats. Bitcoin can also do what's called if that were ever not economically viable, right? Let's say we get to a point where the purchasing power of Bitcoin is so high that a cup of coffee costs half a sat or some fraction thereof. Bitcoin can do what's basically a backwards compatible software update called a soft fork and increase that divisibility further. So you could have, microsats, millisats, whatever you want to call them. So essentially, Bitcoin is infinitely divisible.
All right, Mr. Breedlove, I want a currency, a money that is durable. Why should I support Bitcoin?
I think I need to say a couple of things about this Bitcoin versus gold thing before we continue, because ultimately, I own both, right? I don't know if Mr. Schiff does or not. I know he owns gold. I don't know if he owns Bitcoin. For me, it's like, okay, they're both sound money, in my opinion. Gold is sound money for a non-digital future. Bitcoin is sound money for a digital future. So for me, it's not an either or. It's weighting those two probabilities and allocating the cash balances in my portfolio accordingly. So gold has this 5,000 year head start as the asset that allows people to store purchasing power across time without the need to trust one another. That's the beauty of gold. As Nick Szabo would say, it's the trust minimized asset. That is the store value function that we talked about earlier. That's rooted in the monetary properties of monetary metals in general, but because gold has superior relative scarcity to all other monetary metals, it's the best store of value or means of preserving purchasing power into the future. That's great. Gold's awesome. 5,000 years. I like to own it. Should we degenerate into a future that is a little more dystopian with no electricity, internet, or AI, then yeah, I want to have some gold for sure. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is this 15-year-old digital disruptor to gold. And I think to the extent that we look at the future as one in which that is characterized by electricity, internet, artificial intelligence, is the same extent to which I would think Bitcoin would be a dominant money. And you might ask why. And my view is that Bitcoin's the only money that can be transacted across the internet and telecommunications networks without dependency on the promises of others.
All right.
And we're back to that word promises, right? Which was the operative word between currency and money. And so now this is also true for gold. If we are going into that future that's no electricity, internet, no AI, then you do need gold to transact trustlessly between people in physical space.
That's a
so
straw
that
man.
would be my view, just to finish the point, is that weight your probabilities. Like, do you think we're going into this world or that world? And then just weight your cash balances accordingly.
That is a straw man, and it's not an argument that I'm making. So I'm going to address it. But first, I want to make a point on divisibility.
I'm not making the argument that you're making the argument. I'm just stating my views.
No. Yeah. All right. But you're also stating my views. Okay. But you're also stating my views. So on divisibility, yes. I mean, Bitcoin is extremely divisible. I mean, that's the benefit of dividing nothing. You know, when you're dividing nothing, it's very easy to divide it. I mean, gold is something, so it's a little bit harder, but it's not, you know, it's still very divisible. But I don't think Bitcoin is sound money for any future, whether you say it's a electronic or a dystopian, whatever, however the future is. I think gold works in any environment. I think gold works better in a digital future because the internet, electronics improves gold's properties with respect to the characteristics of money. So gold will work better in a digital future than it worked in an analog past. I mean, it is very compatible with that. You're making an argument just because we have a digital economy that we don't need real money anymore. We can have fake digital money. And, you know, there's nothing unique about Bitcoin. You say Bitcoin is the only thing. There's tens of thousands of other tokens that I could create, that have been created, that will be created. There is nothing special about Bitcoin that anybody else can't copy or replicate. All that it has is that it has more people who believe in it right now. You have more, I guess, computer capacity behind it, but that could change. I mean, the odds that anyone's even going to care about Bitcoin in 10 years, I think, are pretty low. Yeah, you know, it's been around for 10, 13 years. It's been a big bubble, and people have gotten rich buying and selling it, right? The people who got rich bought it a long time ago, and they're rich because they're selling it out to people who bought in later. But the people who are buying in now think they're going to get rich, but they're not. They're just the exit strategy for the people who got in years ago and who are cashing out. So that to have all this, you know, put all this faith and confidence in this one digital token and ascribe to it all sorts of properties that it does not have, or say it's in any way unique, when it's not. You know, really all it is it's, you know, it's old. It's a pyramid, right? It's just dressed up in the trappings of the digital age, but it's no different than chain letters. I mean, I call it a blockchain letter, you know, because it's actually a chain letter on a blockchain. So it doesn't possess these characteristics that you're ascribing to it.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.